was at a festival with my affair but didn't know they broadcasted it. Luck is definitely not on my side. I took my affair to a festival I was supposed to have gone with my boyfriend and got caught by the event's camera. Sounds bad, right? Well, my situation's kind of a mess, and I come here exposing my life with the hope you have useful advice for me. If you don't, then I hope you enjoy my life story. I know most of you will call me a slut in the comments. I'm so used to hearing it now I don't even care. Well, first things first. I'm Veronica. I'm a 25-year-old in a 4-year relationship with my boyfriend Liam, who is 3 years older than me. We met at the company where I did an internship during college. He already worked there, and since my first day, he became my office crush. We don't really have a movie romance kind of story. He asked me out, I said yes, we got along and started dating. Our love was always easy. We have very similar personalities, so we pretty much never fight. Things always worked out, and I could never complain about my relationship with Liam. He didn't have any major red flags, and I could see myself building a life with him. I guess, somehow, that I was the relationship's red flag. One thing I realized during high school is that I can easily get bored of people. When I started dating Liam, I figured if we eventually broke up, it would be because I got bored and lost interest in him. The thing is, year after year passed, and I kept loving him the same way, even with our relationship being simple and low maintenance. It was easy, and I loved it. In our 3rd year together, I thought, well, guess I got bored easily because I was a teenager. Now I grew up and want some stability. That lasted until this year. My relationship went obsolete for some reason. Liam got to the feared phase of life of only wanting to be home and never going out. I didn't expect us to go to clubs or anything like that, but going to bars and concerts with our friends is a part of a social life I never wanted to give up. I get chills just thinking about becoming one of those couples who doesn't have any friends and only have each other to interact with. We sort of settled, and I wanted to have more fun. We were in the middle of our 20s. We'd have the rest of our lives to be a boring couple. I love Liam with all of my heart, but our relationship needed a talk and a deep renovation. I know he'd put in effort if I asked, but I figured he wouldn't enjoy it because that's just who he is, and a part of love is accepting your significant other for who they are. I had sort of accepted that my life was like that now, but a bell inside my head kept ringing and reminding me I was losing my good years for an introverted man who doesn't like to have fun socializing. I started insisting on this subject with Liam. He wasn't really open to it. He said he'd go with me to birthdays and special events, but he wouldn't be upset if I went out with our friends if he wasn't in the mood. I thought our deal was pretty reasonable. We didn't have to do everything together. Our friends usually hung out in bars. We could drink a lot of beer and play pool, so it wasn't really an environment for me to cheat on him. One Friday night, I went out with a few of our friends to one of our favorite bars. It was a lively place, with loud music and a great vibe. I had already gotten out with them by myself, and it was very fun. Liam, as usual, stayed at home, citing his exhaustion from the week's work. I didn't mind at first. After all, he had given me the green light to go out with our friends without him. That night, I met Lucas. He was standing by the bar, chatting with a couple of people I knew. Tall, with an easy smile and a confident aura, he immediately caught my attention. We were introduced by a mutual friend, and from the moment we started talking, there was a spark. Lucas was charming, funny, and most importantly, interested in me. We ended up talking for hours, laughing and sharing stories. I didn't fight the attraction I felt towards him. In fact, I welcomed it. My relationship with Liam had become so routine that the excitement of meeting someone new felt like a breath of fresh air. By the end of the night, Lucas and I exchanged numbers, and I knew this was the start of something I probably shouldn't pursue, but I couldn't help myself. Over the next few weeks, Lucas and I texted constantly. Liam was oblivious, as usual, too caught up in his work and his hobbies at home. I felt guilty, but I also felt alive. When I was with Lucas, I wasn't just Liam's girlfriend. I was Veronica, a woman who still had a passion for life and adventure. We arranged to meet up a few times, always being careful not to get caught. It was thrilling in a way that my life with Liam hadn't been in a long time. Every text message from Lucas felt like a secret, a little piece of excitement that I could carry around with me. It was intoxicating. Liam and I got news that I first thought would be exciting, but I didn't know it would be the beginning of my downfall. We had a close friend named Martin who worked in public relations. His company was doing the PR for a major music festival in our city, so he offered us tickets to the event. I was thrilled. It was exactly the kind of event I loved. But when I excitedly told Liam about it, he just sighed and said, "You go, V. You know I'm not into those big crowded events. Besides, I promised Mom I'd visit her that weekend." I was furious. It wasn't just about the festival, it was about our relationship. It felt like he was giving up on us, on me. He didn't even try to make an effort to do something I loved. So, I decided then and there that I would go to the festival, but not alone. Lucas had mentioned he was going to the same festival with his friends. It was the perfect opportunity. I was also going with my friends, but I made up a story about a childhood friend who was going to the festival and had just gone through a breakup. I told them she didn't have many friends, and I wanted to be there for her to help her have fun. I promised I'd meet them at the end of the festival. That way, I ensured my friends wouldn't question me. In case I ran into them at the festival, I'd say my friend left crying because of a song she heard which reminded of her ex. I didn't tell them about Lucas. They thought I was still the loyal girlfriend. In some twisted way, I believed I was, even if I was pretty much compulsively lying about everything. The festival was everything I hoped it would be. Loud music, dancing, and a sense of freedom I hadn't felt in a long time. Lucas and I spent the entire weekend together after the first day we went to his apartment. God, it was the best night of my life. We were inseparable, sharing laughs, kisses, and moments that made me forget about everything else. I felt like a teenager again, breaking rules and living in the moment. On the last night of the festival, as we stood in the crowd watching the headline act, Lucas pulled me in for a kiss. It was one of those perfect, cinematic moments where everything around you fades away. Unfortunately, it didn't stay perfect for long. Something that we didn't know, one of the festival's many cameras caught our kiss. It was broadcast on the big screen scattered throughout the venue, and, more importantly, it was also part of the live stream going out to thousands of viewers. Among those viewers was Martin, who immediately recognized me and texted Liam. Liam, who had been spending a quiet evening with his mother, suddenly found himself watching his girlfriend kiss another man on his phone screen. He didn't say anything to me that night, but when I got home, he was waiting. "What the hell, Veronica?" was all he said when I walked through the door. The confrontation was ugly. Liam was hurt, angry, and betrayed. He couldn't believe I'd done this to him, and honestly, I couldn't either. I tried to explain how I felt, how our relationship had grown stale, and how I needed something more. But there was no excuse for what I'd done, and deep down, I knew it. I couldn't even look at Liam as he yelled at me. Every word he said hit me like a punch to the gut. "I trusted you, V. I gave you the freedom you wanted, and this is how you repay me?" He wasn't wrong. I had no defense, no justification that would make sense. "I'm sorry," I whispered, but it sounded so hollow, even to my own ears. "I thought we were happy," he continued, his voice breaking. "I thought you loved me." "I do love you, Liam," I insisted, but the words felt weak and insincere. "Then why?" he demanded. "Why would you do this?" I didn't have a good answer. The truth was, I had been selfish. I wanted the thrill of something new, and I didn't think about the consequences. I didn't think about Liam. "I don't know," I admitted. I felt like something was missing. Everything I said sounded stupid, like there was nothing I could say that would fix it, and there actually wasn't. "Something was missing?" he repeated, his voice rising. "What about me? What about us?" I didn't know what to say. I had messed up, and there was no way to fix it. "We're done, Veronica," he said finally. "I can't do this anymore." It was like a punch to the gut. I knew I deserved it, but it still hurt. "Liam, please," I begged. "Can't we talk about this? Can't we try to fix it?" "There's nothing to fix," he said coldly. "You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." As he walked out, he turned back and added, "Oh, and don't think this is over. I'm sending the festival video to everyone we know. Let's see how your new freedom feels with everyone watching." The blood drained from my face. "Liam, please don't do this." I couldn't believe his words. "Too late," he said with a bitter smile. "You should have thought about that before you cheated." And with that, he was gone. The next day, my phone exploded with messages and calls. Liam had followed through on his threat, sending the video to our friends, family, and even my coworkers. The humiliation was unbearable. I lost everything. My friends distanced themselves, and my family was ashamed. Liam's revenge was complete, leaving me isolated and broken. I realized too late the depth of the damage I had caused. Liam's violent words echoed in my mind, a constant reminder of my betrayal and the destruction it wrought. There was no going back, no mending what had been shattered. My life as I knew it was over, and I had no one to blame but myself. The weeks following the breakup were some of the hardest of my life. I had to face the reality that I had destroyed my relationship with Liam, and I was left to pick up the pieces alone. I moved out of our shared apartment and stayed with a friend until I could find a place of my own. Every time I saw a couple on the street, I felt a punch of regret. I had thrown away something precious for a fleeting thrill. Lucas tried to stay in touch, but I couldn't bear to see him. He was a reminder of my betrayal, and I needed to distance myself from everything that had led to my lowest point. He didn't understand why I was pulling away, but I couldn't explain it to him. I needed to figure out who I was and what I wanted without the distractions of an affair. Martin, our mutual friend, reached out to me a few times. He was one of the only ones who did it. I figured he felt guilty after seeing how much backlash I got. He was angry and disappointed, but he still cared. He offered support, though he made it clear he didn't approve of what I'd done. "You messed up big time, V," he said one evening over coffee. "But you're not a bad person. You just made a terrible choice." His words stuck with me. I wasn't a bad person. I had just made a series of bad decisions. I needed to learn from this and move forward. But moving forward was easier said than done. I found myself constantly replaying the events in my mind, wondering how I could have done things differently. I couldn't control the guilt I felt. I could only think about how Liam was feeling. It didn't make any sense. I cheat on him without thinking about the consequences and what my boyfriend would feel. But when he finds out, I start feeling terrible and terribly guilty. I felt like an imposter, a narcissistic bitch who only thought about her pleasures. One particularly difficult day, I received a call from Liam's mother. She was always kind to me, and her voice brought a flood of memories. "Veronica," she said gently, "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. I know you and Liam had something special." "I'm sorry too," I replied, tears welling up. I never wanted to hurt him. "I know you didn't," she said. "But sometimes we hurt the ones we love the most. Just take care of yourself, okay?" Her words were a small comfort, but they reminded me that I needed to heal. I started seeing a therapist, hoping to understand why I had sabotaged my relationship. It was a long, painful process, but it helped me see that I had been seeking validation and excitement outside my relationship because I felt unfulfilled inside it. I needed to learn how to communicate my needs rather than seeking superficial feelings elsewhere. As I look back on my journey, I realize that my story is one of growth and redemption. I made terrible choices, but I learned from them. I hurt the person I loved most, but I also learned how to love better. And while I can't change the past, I can shape my future. So, Reddit, here I am, sharing my story with you. I hope that my mistakes can serve as a lesson to others. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of something new, but the consequences of betrayal are far-reaching and painful. If you're feeling unfulfilled in your relationship, talk to your partner. Don't make the same mistakes I did. And if you're someone who's been hurt by betrayal, you probably think I'm the worst person in the world. Putting myself in Liam's place, I think that too. I hope you can move forward and find happiness again with someone who's faithful to you. In the end, life is about growth and learning. We all make mistakes, but it's how we respond to those mistakes that defines us. I'm still a work in progress, but I'm proud of how far I've come, and I'm grateful for the lessons I've learned along the way. So, thank you for listening to my story. And to Liam, if you ever read this, know that I'm truly sorry. I'll always cherish the time we had together, and I wish you nothing but happiness. With that, I close this chapter of my life, ready to embrace whatever comes next. Update. A month has passed since that catastrophic night when my world crumbled, and I lost everything. Liam's revenge, it seems, was only the beginning. As if the initial humiliation wasn't enough, he has taken it upon himself to ensure that I remain trapped in a perpetual state of shame and regret. Every day feels like a new form of torment. It started with the messages. Texts, emails, and even voicemails flooded my phone, each one more venomous than the last. Liam didn't just vent his anger, he crafted his words to slice through my already fragile sanity. "Hope you're happy with your choices," one message read. "Everyone knows who you really are now." Another simply stated, "You'll never escape what you did." But Liam didn't stop there. He began sending packages to my sister's house, where I was staying before finding my own place. She was the only one from my family not judging me for what I did. The first one arrived 2 weeks after the breakup, a box filled with photos of us, each one defaced with cruel comments scrawled in red ink. Liar, cheater, whore. I couldn't bring myself to look through them all. I shoved the box into the darkest corner of my closet, but its presence felt like a ticking time bomb, ready to explode whenever I dared to open the door. The next package was worse. It contained personal items I'd left at his place, things I'd forgotten about or assumed he'd throw away. My favorite hoodie, a book I never finished reading, a mug I always used for my morning coffee. Each item was broken, cut, or smashed beyond recognition. The accompanying note simply read, "This is what you've done to us." I couldn't take it anymore. I thought about reporting the sort of harassment to the police, but nothing would happen. He hadn't done anything actually threatening. I didn't know if he would, but I hoped he wouldn't. I couldn't stand thinking about it anymore. I just wanted to move on. My friends, once my support system, had all but abandoned me. The video Liam had sent around had done its damage. Most of them sided with him, viewing me as the villain in this tragic tale. Only a few remained in touch, but even they kept their distance, unwilling to get caught in the crossfire of Liam's wrath. My sister told the rest of my family about what was happening. They officially started worrying about me. My mother called daily, her voice filled with worry. "Why don't you come stay with us for a while?" she pleaded. "Get away from all of this." But I had to keep going. I was soon leaving my sister's apartment. I knew Liam wouldn't harass her because he always liked her, but for her safety, I was staying one more week and leaving. It felt like running away, but I didn't want to give Liam that satisfaction. This week, I left my sister's house. I was scared about Liam finding out my new address, even though I knew it probably wouldn't happen. First thing I did after I got the apartment keys was installing security cameras, changing my locks, and learning how to be more aware of my surroundings. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it gave me a small sense of empowerment. For now, that's my update. I'll get back in a few weeks to tell you if anything happened. Update. Hello, Reddit. This is Veronica with a final update on my story about being caught cheating through a broadcast. Things finally got better. I'll tell you all about it. A month ago, I was living in constant fear that Liam would do something worse, but now I finally feel like I can breathe again. After I moved, things magically went peaceful, and I didn't hear from him in a long time. The first few days in my new apartment were nerve-wracking. Every time I opened my mail, I thought I was going to find a picture of me with "whore" written in it, but it never happened. I was relieved he didn't take it to the next level. I guess Liam was hurt and needed to express that some way. I heard that Liam had moved on. The few friends I still had from that time mentioned seeing him with someone new. At first, the news hit me like a punch to the gut. I wasn't sure how to feel about it. Part of me was angry that he seemed to be moving on so easily while I was still picking up the pieces of my shattered life. But another part of me felt an overwhelming sense of relief. As the days passed, the relief began to outweigh the anger. Liam's new relationship meant he was no longer focused on me. The threatening messages stopped. That was good, and I needed to focus on that. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I had a chance to rebuild my life without the shadow of Liam hanging over me. I began to reconnect with old hobbies and interests that I had abandoned during the turmoil. I joined a local book club, started painting again, and even took up yoga. These activities helped me find a sense of peace that had been missing for so long. They also allowed me to meet new people and slowly build a new social circle, one free from the judgment and gossip that had tainted my old life. Even though I was still single, I didn't feel lonely. In fact, I found a certain comfort in my solitude. It gave me time to reflect on my past actions, understand my mistakes, and work on becoming a better version of myself. I no longer felt the need to rush into another relationship or seek validation from someone else. Instead, I focused on healing and finding happiness within myself. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset, I realized just how far I had come. I was still haunted by the memories of what had happened, but they no longer controlled me. I had taken back my power, and it felt incredible. I could finally be myself again, but this time all by myself, without Liam. It was good that he also moved on. He deserves it. As for closure, I realized it wasn't something that could be handed to me by anyone else. It was something I had to find within myself. Moving away, starting again, and focusing on my personal growth had all contributed to that sense of closure. It wasn't perfect, and there were still days when the past weighed heavily on my mind. But overall, I felt more at peace than I had in a long time. Looking back on the cheating, it forced me to confront my mistakes, prioritize my well-being, and ultimately find a path to a better life. While I wouldn't wish what I did to anyone, I stopped consuming myself with the guilt and accepted, now completely, that people make mistakes. Now, as I look forward, I do so with a sense of hope and determination. I am grateful for the chance to start over, and I am committed to making the most of it. My past will always be a part of me, but it no longer defines me. I am free to create a future filled with possibilities, and that is something worth celebrating.